So Christian generosity is a bit counterintuitive. It feels like if we pour out from our reserves to help someone else, then how in the world would that help us in the end? I mean, have you ever benefited from someone else's generosity? Do you remember how that made you feel? Have you ever poured out of your abundance in order to help someone in need? Do you remember how that felt? The lessons from the parable of the Good Samaritan teach us something different about generosity. And that's what we're talking about on the live show.
Kindred UMC live show features adults discussing adult topics, occasionally with adult language. It may not be suitable for young viewers. Please use discretion before watching.
Hello all. Welcome once again to the Kindred UMC live show. My name is Chris Hayden. I am the pastor of Kindred UMC, coming to you not live, but pre-recorded from Kindred UMC's Studio A, aka my front room.
I'm Ann, and I'm everything but clergy for Kindred UMC.
Everything we pay anyway.
Yeah, This is true.
I'm Preston, and if the grass is always greener on the other side, what are you still doing here?
Well, I think you're missing the point of that little allegory.
If the grass is always greener on the other side, what are you still doing on this
Doesn't that
side?
just put you into a perpetual state of constantly hopping the fence?
No.
I think that's the point of...
Burn the fence down.
All right, forget what I was going to say. We're talking about this. No, we are in our fourth and final week looking at the parable of the Good Samaritan. And don't kick the microphone. Looking at the parable of the Good Samaritan. And we're taking it from a slightly different angle than just kind of looking at it from an exegetical standpoint. If you don't know what that word means, don't worry. You can. It doesn't matter. But we're going to look at it from the standpoint of trying to identify with different characters in that parable. And we're kind of to the last one, which is the Good Samaritan. We finally get to be the good guys.
I don't know if I'm good at that.
I was hoping for more of a reaction, to be honest.
Oh.
Did none of you bring like poppers or fireworks or anything? Okay. All right.
I can pop if you'd like me to.
And lock? Oh.
Just a pop.
I'm sure that sounded delightful to all of our listeners.
Don't mistake that for the clap.
So we're going to be identifying with the Good Samaritan. So in the past, I have gone over the Good Samaritan story every time. I'm not going to do that. Go look at last week's. Go look at the weeks before. Just pick another live show in the past 4 weeks. You'll find one where I talk about, and there's also a link down below. You can literally read it for yourself. But the Good Samaritan is finally where we get to identify with what does it mean for us to kind of be the good guy? Like, what's the main thing that Jesus is trying to teach with this parable? And a loyal and faithful listener out there suggested that we talk about self-sacrifice a little bit. And so I've kind of chosen an angle to kind of take us down that road. And you know who you are. Okay. So this is from the book of Proverbs. This is chapter 21, verses 1 through 3. The book of Proverbs is an ancient book of like wise sayings and good advice. That's essentially what it is. According to the kind of like apocryphal, it was written by King Solomon, who was David's son, and was given the gift of wisdom by God. And so this is what verses 1 through 3, chapter 21 say. The king's heart is a stream of water in the hand of the Lord. It turns wherever he will. All deeds are right in the sight of the doer, but the Lord weighs the heart. That's some weird phrasing, so I want to say it again. All deeds are right in the eyes of the doer, but the Lord weighs the heart. To do righteousness and justice is more acceptable to the Lord than sacrifice. And in this example, sacrifice, not meaning like personal sacrifice, but like actual ritual sacrifice. Because doing righteousness and justice often comes with some kind of personal sacrifice. But doing righteousness and justice is more acceptable to the Lord than sacrifice. And this kind of, again, this emphasizes a little bit what we talked about last week. We talked about Jesus is far more concerned with the heavier, what he describes as the heavier matters of the law, the weightier matters, which are grace and mercy and justice. And we hear that echoed throughout the Old Testament too. And so it kind of begs the question, like, how did the Pharisees and scribes and Sadducees get so hung up on the letter of the law when there seems to be so much evidence going to the opposite? So this idea of I know I didn't send this out ahead of time, but have you ever done something that you thought was right and then like later realized, oh, you were kidding yourself? Like, it happens to me all the time. And one of the things I'm constantly working on these days is, so I grew up in a home environment where like raising your voice and like, you know, having disagreement was fine and normal. And like, that's how we communicate. And I think a lot of people have, you know, like varying levels of tolerance for that. But lately there's been a lot of like, when people go off onto things that to me seem absurd, and I get like aggressive, and like it feels perfectly justified and reasonable in the moment. And like this idea, like it seems like righteousness to me, but God is actually looking at and judging my heart. And like that, when I look at those moments in my heart, what I want is to win. I want to win and I want to defeat. And in my worst times, I want to embarrass. I want to make the other person so wrong that they have to, like they have no choice but to do what I say.
A byproduct of the win. It's the meat byproduct.
Yeah, right. So I wonder, like, have you ever had a time where you thought you were in the right, and then later, as you looked back on it, you kind of like realized, oh, that's not a good look, or maybe I should have done that differently, or handled that differently, or talked to that person differently, or like, have you ever had a moment like that?
Yeah, I have a good one. When I was first teaching and technically learning how to teach, I had history with younger siblings and teaching, but that's not really the same because they're in the same family group. So you at least have a parent to resort to. With teaching, you kind of have no one to bounce off. There's other teachers, but they have their different methods and they have different students who aren't the same.
Yeah, different context, different classrooms.
And those students each have their own families and blah, blah. There's too much things spinning out of context for something to relate to my question. So the only thing I have to relate to is me. And it was specifically in drumming, and that's the only kind of context I have with a student. So if a bad habit forms, the only thing I can yell about or fix is how I did it and how I fixed it. While the kid doesn't know what is going on in my head, I can just assume that he knows that A equals A and B equals B. And if not, you're going to have to figure it out at home because I can't teach you that stuff. And it sounds completely selfish listening to it now, but in the heat of the moment, when I needed them to have it learned a week ago when they didn't because they're too scared to tell me they didn't learn it because I'm intimidating or something.
Because every child is afraid all the time that the adult world is just going to come crashing down on them.
Which is exactly what I was, which is why I did my things before. Yeah. And so I, take the blame out on past me to either not doing something, blah, 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 blah. It's selfish reflection coming out. I don't remember what the question was, but yeah.
Well, yeah.
I felt right saying like,
it felt right in the moment, and then after looking back on it, it was like, I wish I would have said that different. I wish I would have done that.
But different. Yeah, right. But you do this, and you'll be right. Look how he's doing it. He's right. Completely thrown to the wayside. You learn differently. You probably do some like weird things with blah blah blah. blah, blah.
I lately have been finding myself, and it's nothing major. It's never like, I'm going to assume something big. But like there's been a lot of assumptions lately where like my heart's in the right place, like, oh yeah, so-and-so can help us out with that or whatever. And then I realized that like, maybe I should have checked on that. Like
maybe a text before.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, it's not, it's really almost just, it's the assumption, because like they're always there to help, right? Like whoever, my mom or a friend or whatever. And I'm like, oh yeah, they'll do that for me. No problem. And then I'm like, I'm definitely like leaning on this.
Well, so there's an interesting, the phrase taking for granted
Yeah.
It's an interesting little phrase we've got. Like the connotation of it is that like you are taking advantage in an inappropriate way of somebody who's being generous. Like you're taking it for granted. It's just always going to be there. I don't have to appreciate it. But there's also something too about. So as a youth director, which is about the closest I've ever been to having, I had custodial care of people who were younger and more vulnerable than me, there is something to being on the other side that's like, no, it is granted. I want the nature of our relationship to be, and I used to say to kids all the time, like, no, what I'm saying is when you've had a knockdown drag out with your mom at 12:30 p.m. and you have a test tomorrow and you don't know what you're going to do, you can't go to sleep, you can't, I'm saying that's when you call me. Right. That's who I am for you. And quite frankly, no one, very rarely did anyone ever kind of take me up on that. But no, I do want you to take this aspect of our relationship as granted. But then there's this other aspect of doing it in a way that doesn't appreciate. And that's when it can get a little damaging for the one who is taking for granted.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and it just feels, like I said, you feel like you're doing the right thing, but did I hurt somebody in the process because I just assumed they would do it for me?
Yeah.
You
Well, and again, one of the things I'm really working with is hurt versus harm, which is another hard question to answer. Was this hurtful or harmful? If it's hurtful, I certainly don't want to be hurtful, but sometimes the truth is hurtful.
Yeah.
But the scarier parts are when I look at it and I go, that was harmful. What I did was harmful. What I did damaged our relationship.
Well, yeah, the implication to giving the truth was the harmful part.
Yeah.
Be it
Well, again, for my example, the motive, a lot of that comes down to, and this is the heart language that God looks at the heart. Did I want to tell the truth? Because if it did, it would have come out differently. Mm-hmm. If that was my primary motivation, it would have come out differently. But instead, what I wanted was to win and maybe even embarrass and let everyone know that I'm right and they're wrong.
Yeah, and when you're in that passionate thing, that kind of comes out teaching too, which not a lot of people talk about. But because you only have you to reflect off of besides, learning in school or something like that, you're expecting them to learn the same way you do because we're all human.
Yeah.
So the only way I learn is...
We must all be the same.
The only way I learn is someone beating me upside the head with a 2x4 and saying, please learn this, please God, please, please. While some people can just read a line on a piece of paper and remember it 6 months later. Somehow, I don't know, but...
So let's take it, now let's look at it from the inverse, from the Good Samaritan perspective. So when have you ever either benefited from someone taking the time to actually stop and be generous when it was in a graceful way, in a way that wasn't deserved? Because that's essentially what the Good Samaritan epitomizes. Self-sacrifice for the sake of a stranger, and not necessarily that you have to talk about a stranger story, but anytime where you've either benefited from that or where we want to be careful about being braggadocious, but I think real human stories like this are helpful for people to identify with. Mm-hmm. But a time when maybe you did something that cost you a little bit and you weren't sure if it was going to be I don't know if this is right or not, but I can't walk away from this person. I'm going to do this. What stories like that come to your mind? And I can go first if you want.
No, I have one.
Okay.
When I first got my brand new shiny truck, it was in 2019, and I swear to you, 31 days later after buying it, somebody slams into the back of it. And being a newer, older-ish adult, I righteously and furiously get out of the car. Oh my, no, I can't believe this. And I step out and I see this kid shivering outside while it's 90 degrees. I'm like, you can't be. Okay, he's terrified. So I go to the back. There's nothing wrong with mine because I have a hitch, and he has rightfully slammed into the hitch, backed out, and created a perfect square in his bumper. And he's like, my parents are going to kill me. I'm going to kill me. You're going to kill me. The cops are going to come and kill me. I'm like, whoa. You have to call the cops if you don't want to. My car's not damaged, and even if it was, the state that you're in, this is gonna screw you up in the next like 6 or 7 years. So why don't you just give me a hug and I hope you have a good day? And he's like, what? And I just gave him a big hug and I said, I hope you feel better. Is that what you needed? And he's like, I think so. And then we just left. Nothing else came.
I had a similar thing happen to me when I first started driving. I was in the go straight lane and there was a turning lane next to me. We were stopped. I was looking over there. The turning lane started to go. And so I assumed
brain says go.
That the light had all turned green, took my foot off the brake, started to put it on the gas right as and as soon as I tapped the gas, realized somebody else was like still stopped in front of me, and like not terrible, but like definitely like bumped them, and it's my first. This is like within like 6 months of me like getting my license, and I worked at a car wash, and I was literally going to work, and so I got out of the car and I was like, I'm so sorry. I work for a car wash. I can like it's literally down the road. We can get because there was no like major structural. It was just like cosmetic stuff. And I was like, we can get this taken care of. I will be happy to. And the guy looked at it and he looked at me and he's like, it's a rental. And then he got back in the car. He drove off. I was like, whew. Like that was a close one. Yeah. I have definitely benefited much more seriously from the one of the things that really comes to mind is I had to get a master's degree in order to do this job, and my master's degree was much longer than most other master's degree programs, and therefore more expensive. Like it just costs a lot more money. It takes a lot longer. And I certainly took my time with it, but one of the major reasons that my wife and I are doing better now in this current economic climate is because I don't have any student loans. And some of that's because I took my time and choices I made, but really a significantly large amount of that is because of scholarships, because of grants, and literally because of the generosity of like individuals who believed in me and literally would just like, it's Christmas time, here's thousands of dollars for your tuition. And and I just had a lot of help from not only my family, but also my church. That just, I grew up in a church environment that was like, we support candidates for ministry. That's who we are, that's what we do. And it was backed up by a lot of people who didn't owe me a thing and really seriously helped me to like navigate that and get through that without having to take out any student loans. And like now we're doing well because we don't have student debt. And like, well, I mean, like it was just totally undeserved, just totally undeserved. And somebody was just like, here you go. And that's always kind of been a defining thing for me. Like, God, I want to be a person who's capable, not just emotionally, but also like who orders my life in such a way that I have the capacity to do that for people. There was a friend of ours, a congregation member who had a kind of a falling out with where she was living and needed to like a place to stay. And it's like, this is what I've been waiting for. we have a home that somebody can just crash in our place for not like indefinitely, but like some kind of an indefinite amount of time.
You're not living in your car. Like,
yeah, you can like nobody who knows me is going to sleep on the streets unless there are mitigating circumstances. I'm not advising being unwise or unsafe, certainly.
Unless I want to.
But if somebody I know and have a relationship, nobody I know and has a relationship with is going to stay on the streets. Like we thank God, because of the help of other people, we are now in a situation where we can take care of that. How about you?
So that actually flows into mine quite nicely. When I was in college, I was diagnosed with some pretty serious physical issues that I had to go to physical therapy and go through all these things. So I had to leave my apartment and go back home. And I had no one to stay and like watch my cat and just take care of basic things. Like I was just gonna peace out for like 3 months. And this girl that I barely knew, I knew her from high school, and like in passing, you know, like I know your name, I don't know who you are. I asked her, I said, hey, can you do me, I knew she needed help, she needed some place to stay, and I said, hey, can you do me a favor? You don't even have to pay me, just stay at the apartment, you know, just watch things for me. And then things changed for her and she ended up needing to stay longer. And I said, that's fine. And she's like, well, I can't pay, you know, like we worked out payment, but really like pretty much she stayed for free for months. And it was just this moment of like, well, where else are you going to go?
Yeah.
You know, like what are you going to do now?
I mean, yeah. Have you ever been in that moment?
I'm not
where
going to like
you have to
kick you in the chest on the way. Like,
see you
Yeah.
later.
Bye.
yeah.
Have a
Yeah.
good life.
And like she was always super grateful, and like if she had a spiff at work or whatever, she'd give it to me and whatnot. But like the $50 gift card is not rent, you know.
Yeah.
But I didn't care. Like it was just, it felt good to have somebody there that, you know, you knew they needed the olive branch from somebody because she was in the student debt boat and some other things, and it just, she needed help.
Yeah. Well, there's something to the like self-sacrifice unintuitively feels like we're throwing money down a drain or whatever, you know, energy or time, like, or emotional energy,
Advantage
whatever.
is being taken.
Yeah, it feels that way beforehand. But in my experience, and this is my kind of my like encouragement to everyone else, we think that the things that will make us happy are things that flow into us. And it's the exact opposite. I mean, it's so weird. It's the exact opposite. Here's a tiny, stupid example. My wife and I have started after dinner just taking a walk together. Mostly because like we're like, well, we should like, we both work from home now. We've been in quarantine for God knows how long, and things are finally opening up, but we still have this kind of like weird sense of like, we just need to get out of the house. And you'd think like on paper, like taking a walk it costs you energy, it costs you time, you're not doing what you want to do anymore, but it's actually been like very delightful. It's improved our mental health, it's improved our physical health. I'm like, I weigh myself every morning, it's literally just stupid, less than a mile, like maybe 1 mile walk is actually helping with that. Like it's so silly, but like it's actually the expenditure that is bringing something into me. And like it's the same thing with generosity. We think that by giving resources away, we're gonna be in trouble and it's gonna be more anxious and less good and less fun and less enjoyable. Life will be less enjoyable. It's the exact opposite. The hero of the story is the Good Samaritan, and it's not just that it's because he's a good guy. It's also because this is the actual life-giving, life-loving, life-enjoying way to be.
Yeah, not being a worrywart. Not him like, I'm going to get dirty from touching him.
It literally leads to
Yeah.
less anxiety, more... I mean, I keep on coming back to the word enjoyable. Like, it really makes... So, like, here's my plea. If you're out there, and like me, and I've been struggling with this for a long time, if you're out there going like, what's the world coming to? Nothing works anymore. I'm anxious about everything. I'm afraid it's all going to fall apart. I'm not sure we're making progress. I don't know what's coming. All of this terrified. If you identify with any of that, I'm telling you, find a place to give. Find an opportunity to pour out and serve, whether it's like as simple as a soup kitchen, giving money to Compassion International, finding a local, like at the corner, a local homeless person who like is constantly there and finding some way to give them what they need. Like find a way to give out, and I promise you, if you make a practice of this, it will actually help you. You will actually feel less anxious. You will actually feel more connected to humanity and creation and God. It actually makes a difference. So we're way out of time. I went way over. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Amen.